are going to talk about computerized stupidity. Now, computerized stupidity takes many forms, and I'll try and touch on a few of them. Now, of course, I am talking about a certain individual who used to live in East Grand Forks, Minnesota, and someone who may or may not be a living and breathing human being. Now, recently, another one of these conspiracy nut posts went up by the high command over on that Twilight Zone website where all the computer idiots go, conspiracy nuts and what have you. And it was a narration, and the narration was clearly computer generated. Now, this is becoming more and more of a thing with people all across the spectrum, that they get involved in using this computerized voice. But here's the thing. Long time ago, the so-called award-winning journalist from East Grand Forks, Minnesota, claimed to have been getting a bunch of phone calls. And the phone calls would be of a threatening nature. Some of the phone calls were the familiar anonymous calls that was the rage for a while. The guy in the suit with the Guy Fawkes mask and the distorted computer voice saying, "We do not forgive, we do not forget," and so on and so forth. There were a few of those. And then there were the calls where there would be an image of a desktop phone, landline phone, and it would have like the White House, Mar-a-Lago, or some other number that was clearly spoofed with a telephone number spoof. This sort of thing's been going on for years as well. And I've always wondered something rather interesting. Now, this guy puts his phone number out there, or at least he used to. He'd advertise it on his blog, he'd advertise it on his website, and so it was no problem for anybody to call the number. And sometimes it was his cell phone, and sometimes it was his landline. He made sure anybody that wanted to call him could call. So number one, he's setting himself up. And it just seems rather convenient that every time one of these calls are made, he had a camera locked and loaded, ready to go, so that he could sit there, compose for dramatic purposes, the display on that phone, and take a picture of it. And in some cases, he even was able to record the calls. Now, I don't know how many of you out there have a camera sitting next to your phone or have it set up to record calls so that every time somebody calls, you can pick up your camera and you can take a picture of it. Real convenient. It's real convenient to have a phone that's capable of displaying these numbers, but I happen to, at the time, I had the same brand of landline phone that he had, so I'm familiar with the display. And at one point, he was using a computer-generated female voice. And someone asked him what he was using to create that female voice, and he told them. And did some research on that software. And since the time that he has first used that until now, that software's gotten pretty sophisticated. And there's also another free piece of software. It's known as Watson. That does the same thing, and it's a more advanced piece of software. And for the most part, it's free. And so doing a little research, going through the menu and taking samples of each one of the voices, I was able to find the voice that he used in that narration. Now, the purpose of this portion of the monologue is to point out that this individual knows how to create virtual content. In other words, he can make someone say something that doesn't exist. And he can also manipulate text to where he can create text that would make you think that it's someone else doing the posting of these text messages when it's in fact him, that he is making this stuff up and he is accusing other people of making it up. He has that capability. He has that knowledge. And so it would make sense that he is the one making the threats to himself and not someone else. And he is doing this for attention, for drama, and in the end, for the money. Now, someone lied, his handler, basically, and said, no, he doesn't care about money. Well, I thought that rather interesting, because in a comment on the High Command channel, said, and I'm paraphrasing a little bit here, thank you for helping Tim. He made thousands today. Now, how is that not caring for money? Or is it an admission that maybe Tim is not the one getting the money? That maybe it's the handler getting the money, or someone else entirely? So that when people donate to this individual, they're donating to a handler and not the person. Because Timmy Hoffa may not be alive. Now, there is the possibility. I've gone into scenarios of why, and I do know for a fact that someone using his identity has been feeding information to law enforcement regarding QAnons and prominent people that are on these various right-wing websites, that he is acting as state's evidence, he's acting as an informant, and he's doing so in return from immunity, from prosecution, or mitigating any possible criminal culpability for the actions that these people are continuing to engage in. And thus far, it is rumored that his information has led to the arrest of 18 right-wing group members. And that some of these groups are beginning to find out that he is the source of the information that led to these arrests. And that might be why he is trying to get people convinced that he is not alive. Because these militia groups are looking for him. Because they don't appreciate someone that claims to support former President Trump of going to law enforcement and ratting on them. In some circles, he's being called Timmy the Rat. Now, Now, this is all computer related, by the way, because he is pretending to be people that are patriots, that support the MAGA movement, and so forth, when in fact the only reason he's there is to get money and try to get the money and keep from getting arrested at the same time by being a cooperating witness for the feds. Now, what is interesting about this is this leads to this next bit of computerized stupidity. And that is the people that actually believe the stuff that comes out of these people. That there are those out there who are willing to believe that someone who hasn't held a job in years, whose claim to fame was a pizza delivery driver in a small town in the northwest of Minnesota, is able to somehow become a press secretary for the President of the United States at the time. Didn't get paid for it. Had to sleep in his car. Had to do his live streams from inside a car, sitting next to a fast food restaurant in order to piggyback off their Wi-Fi. He couldn't even afford to have a hotspot on a cell phone. Something that's relatively cheap, by the way. Instead, he had to rely on free internet. This third man from the President of the United States, who was authorized to give all this information out on behalf of the Pentagon Pedophile Task Force, which is a scam. And there are people on the right that are stupid enough to fall for this because they don't like Hillary. They don't like Biden. They don't like Democrats, period. So if you lie about the Democrats in a negative way, these people suck it up like nose candy. They breathe it in. All the big lies that are out there. Yeah, the funny thing is, today I saw someone that had impeach Biden shit written all over his car. $30,000 car, and he ruined it by putting all this junk all over it. Let the world know the guy is an idiot because of all this crap he's got on his car. You want to let the world know you're stupid? Fine. You knock yourself out. But the reason that people like that are out there is because of this computerized stupidity. That this absolutely ridiculous nonsense is out there feeding these people with all this crap. Feeding these people with this fiction. Feeding their hatred. Feeding their bigotry. And like little mindless zombies, they go to Patreon, PayPal, or wherever, and they give the high command their money. And the high command goes out and spends their money. Now, at some point, the authorities are going to step in and people are going to get arrested after their useful idiot, the unemployed pizza delivery driver from East Grand Forks, Minnesota, gives them all the information they need, and he outlists his usefulness, that all those around him will be rounded up, arrested, and put on trial. Their assets will be seized. All kinds of audits will take place. and they will get convicted and they will go to jail. Because the federal government is pretty thorough. This is not some Hicktown law enforcement of 600 people population. This is the federal government. They know what the hell they're doing. And they're also very patient. But pretty soon, the indictments will go out. They'll be sealed at first. There'll be sealed grand jury hearings, sealed proceedings, sealed subpoenas, all kinds of stuff. Things that are going on right now, as a matter of fact. And eventually these people are going to be in for a rude awakening. They might get an unexpected Christmas present. Merry Christmas. You've got a warrant for your arrest. You have the right to remain silent. Put your hands behind your back. We got a nice black Chevy Suburban you can ride in. Brand new. Courtesy of the United States government. So sit back and enjoy the ride. Now, because of this throttling back of these individuals, I am gradually going to throttle back myself. I'm probably not going to be doing the daily mobile flats that much longer. Quite frankly, I'm getting too busy to bother with it. And we've, for the most part, accomplished our mission. These people have been shoved into a closet. They're over on these zombie-like Twilight Zone right-wing social media sites where the only people that listen to them are their own kind. They kind of do a circle jerk and do it to themselves and to each other. And the real world can continue to do real things, to do productive things, and for the most part, do it unimpeded. Where the animals have been put in their cages, they've been put into oblivion, we no longer have to tolerate them, they're gone. You know, they can continue to attack dead people, accuse dead people of things, because dead people can defend themselves. I find that really interesting that the best they can do is attack a guy that's been dead for 10 years and attack people that, for the most part, don't pay attention to him anymore. You know, the only reason I pay attention to them is because I think they're incredibly stupid, and I like to report on some of the stupid things they do. You know, I've pretty well proven time and time again these people are frauds, and they are the most proficient liars on the planet. And from time to time, if I see something interesting by these morons, I'm going to talk about it. But for the most part, we're getting to the end of the story. All we gotta do now is just sit back and wait for the arrest warrants, wait for the mugshots, wait for the protests because they've been caught, and wait for the end. Please like, subscribe, hit the notification buttons, and share. This is William K. Murtaugh, Mert Witness 1. Have a good one.